Welcome in, Renegades. And today we are live with our second episode of Decoding Dfinity. And today we're going to talk about the shocking truth about the Internet Computer ICP. And that goes really deep. It goes from the tech side. It goes to what is actually being utilized on the Internet Computer, who is building on it, and a lot of different things. We're going to talk about AI today, which is the precursor to the next big thing in crypto. Right now, this cycle is going to be Bitcoin, runes, and ordinals, but also AI. But I think the next bull run is going to be huge for AI. So welcome in Kyle Langham. He is the data and analytics officer, or whatever at Dfinity. What would that label be? Data and analytics chief?
I think you just gave me a pay raise. So let's just stick with officer. Director at the director level.
Director, I like it. Well, thank you for coming on the show. We actually met in real life at Bitcoin Nashville. That was awesome. Represent the chain fusion here. So what was your experience like? Just go ahead, kind of introduce yourself, and then just give us a little overview of your experience at Bitcoin Nashville.
Yeah. So Kyle Langham, as you said, I do data and analytics at Dfinity. I also kind of get my feet wet in different areas, such as conferences, speaking at conferences, some marketing activities and such. But more, I've just been fascinated with the Internet Computer for years and years. And so I was a community member before. I had a blog. Dfinity then ended up hiring me off of basically some of my community contributions. So it's been an awesome ride. I've spent my life in pharma, so it's been a really fun switch. But yeah, Nashville was awesome. Dfinity showed up really well. ICP showed up really well. Got to meet a lot of projects. Got to meet yourself. A lot of community members were there.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing was just, Nashville, Bitcoin Nashville. So BTC Media put on Bitcoin Nashville. And it's very much a Bitcoin maxi publication. That's their target audience. And yet this was probably the first time in which they started to loosen up their standards in terms of really trying to gear more for what we kind of call season 2 Bitcoin. We're building on Bitcoin, as well as just like Bitcoin developers and people interested in like, what can we do with Bitcoin beyond just, put it in our cold storage and bury it in our closet. That was like the theme. We showed up real big at ICP. With ICP, had multiple events that we were at, hosted our own Chain Fusion Day, which was where we met. Yep, awesome shirt from it. That I thought went really well. We hosted a lot of the major leaders within the Bitcoin Season 2 space. Like pretty much all the major Bitcoin L2s showed up at our Chain Fusion Day. Real great networking opportunity. And then, we were at the main conference and had billboards. I mean, it was phenomenal. The biggest thing, though, was how many Bitcoiners came up and said, yeah, I've been following ICP for a long time. And how many people really said, we've heard what you guys are doing in Bitcoin. Like your native integration is awesome. Like that's what we want to partake in. And we would slide in something like, hey, we're now like storing block headers in canisters now. And we could, put the entire Bitcoin state on ICP at some point in the near future. And people are just like, So having those conversations were awesome.
Man, it was beautiful. And I just wanted to start out with that. I'll have you introduce yourself and give a background. But since we met there, and I think it was one of the most pivotal conferences of the year this year, in America at least. And so I just want to kind of have you give a background. You said you were in pharma a little bit, just because I want people to understand the people behind Dfinity. Like even me, I see you as a big leader and a figure in the space. So what I want to do is kind of humanize you a little bit. So maybe just give your passion for ICP, how you got into it. You said you were in pharma before that. That's kind of a big leap. Going from pharma into the crypto space. Tell us what gave you the passion and the drive to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I really fell hard down the Bitcoin rabbit hole in 2018 and 2019. So actually it's kind of a background. And I think I like to tell the story as a way to like paint the picture of like what ICP is relative to what everything else in crypto is. Before I joined Dfinity, I was working for a small vaccine company called Novavax. It was like a 200, 300 employee company. We blew up, like we absolutely blew up in 2020 because we were like one of the first to like prove a COVID vaccine in like preclinical clinical trials. So we got $1.6 billion from the US government. I was in the IT department. I was a senior director of data and analytics there. I, had a small team, but I was also like tangentially involved in this big effort to improve our cybersecurity, because with that money we got from the US government came with all these criteria for how we had to beef up our cybersecurity. And I just experienced firsthand, it was the first wake up call to me of like how insecure the internet is by design. There's no amount of money you can spend to protect your digital assets. And that's just a fact. There's no amount of expertise. We had some of the greatest experts coming in, and yet we still had public hacks that occurred that were reported on in like the New York Times. At that same time, Dominic Williams, is leading up to the launch of ICP, the Genesis event. And he's talking about how blockchain, if blockchain as a web host, not as a token ledger, but blockchain technology as a web hosting service, could actually create a more secure internet layer. And that just, so you combine my experience at my work where we're just seeing, hey, it's very, very, let's just say impossible to secure your digital assets. And then you have on the other side, somebody saying, actually, blockchain is the solution to that. And it was like two things. One, it was like, okay, clearly a problem that needs a solution, and Dom's out there actually talking about it. And number two, again, I was coming from a Bitcoin mindset where, blockchain is used for like, token ledger, essentially like a decentralized ledger. And then you followed along with Ethereum, and I just never quite got as deep. But here now was somebody talking about blockchain in a completely different perspective than what anyone else is talking about. And it really clicked for me of like, oh, now I understand why blockchain technology is so important. Anyways, that led down the Dfinity or the ICP rabbit hole, which then led me to working for Dfinity.
That is beautiful. Just hearing the way that all of my guests, like not just Dfinity, but like a lot of the projects, are finding problems with something that they're trying to do. Like Jordan Last was just on the channel. He brought Python, Hazel, TypeScript, and a lot of other stuff to the internet computer. And he and Jennifer all have the same story. It's that they were looking to do something that was not capable of being done with the traditional tech stack that we have, right? And so it leads down this, path to find better technology. Because like as an engineer yourself and a lot of other, software engineers and just other stuff are looking for new technology that's going to lead them to be successful over their competitors, right? And so now ICP is that infrastructure that allows you to have one up on your competitor because you can store everything on chain. Basically, you can fix any problem. You can take any business and put it on Web3. Before Bitcoin Nashville, I was at ICPCC in Austin, Texas. And I was talking to a developer there who'd never heard of ICP, and he had built a rideshare program and on Web 2. And I was like, bro, you could do that on ICP. And then like a month later, Fuel DAO came out. It wasn't the same guy, but okay. Fuel DAO is like a rideshare program, but on the internet computer. And I was like, dude, I was just telling somebody they could build this on the internet computer. So like anything that you can envision in the Web 2 space, you can do on the internet computer, but the Web 2 space cannot scale properly. It cannot keep your assets safe. It can be hacked. It can be turned off at any moment. So these are the kind of things that lead people to the internet computer. It's that drive to make something better. You know how like PlayStation goes from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're just always improving. And I think the internet computer is the PlayStation 2 to the internet. So the internet's PlayStation 1. You could even say Bitcoin is PlayStation 1, Ethereum's PlayStation 2, and ICP is PlayStation 3, right? So, I mean, it advances, and then we'll get the 4, the 5 later on. So I connect with that. I think a lot of us had the same thing. I was looking for something. I'm a little different because I wasn't a developer at the time, but I was looking for a good staking platform. I was looking for a crypto that integrated with other cryptos. I didn't even know integrated. I was just like a crypto that works with other cryptos. And then ICP was like, oh, let's integrate with cryptos. And then also AI. So the future of Web 2, Web 3, everything is going to be AI. AI is going to train models on traditional web, in finance, in blockchain. So AI is going to be the biggest thing, I think, in the next 5 to 10 years, especially. So I want your opinion on that because you're probably a more of an expert than I am on AI and what's happening. But can you give us an overview of AI on the internet computer and the potential possibilities? Because I know that it could possibly verify code. I know like when you put an NNS proposal through, they end up like having to verify the code to make sure, and then you have people that do that right now, from what I've heard. And so I just imagine like with the capabilities of the AI already on the internet computer, able to do this, is there any plan to implement the AI? I know the AI, like Dom has done a couple presentations. Is there any plan to push AI out to actually control something on the internet computer and like, like a test, even on the test net? Like, is there anything happening with AI?
Is there anything happening? I'll say this. I'm trying to remember the exact number. I want to say it's 62. I think there's 62 AI projects being built on ICP right now. Obviously, the main ones that people have heard of are the ones that have SNS: Decide AI, Elna AI, and Toniq. Those are probably the three big names, but there's 59 other ones like ICP Pro.
Yes, I just heard about him. Jennifer just told me about him. Yeah.
Yes, he's got a really cool tiny story model running that'll write your story about ICP. But let me answer the AI question even more. So in fact, decentralized AI has almost completely taken the perspective of taking GPUs and tokenizing them so that people can basically purchase CPU power at smaller increments. That's like the whole DPIN movement in AI. That's one aspect. I don't think that's really something that ICP should care about playing in. It just isn't. Honestly, it's a fool's errand, I think, is probably how I describe it. There's already some major players. Those major players are established. Let it be. I think that's not really where the industry goes anyways. The second thing, in the very near term, what you're going to start seeing is a demand for AI models that can sign crypto transactions. I know that that's already a thing. The problem that people are running into is how do you do that in a scalable and secure manner? So I've seen all these solutions where people are basically running like local LLMs on their own machine that then can store their private key securely. But that's not, yeah, that question is going to be great. We'll get to that in a second. But that's not scalable. Then I've seen other people who are basically passing private keys to ChatGPT. So now Microsoft is part of your trust circle if you want to accomplish that. With Chain Fusion and AI on ICP, I think you're going to start seeing a lot of AI products that can sign Bitcoin transactions or can sign Ethereum transactions or even read smart contract data on Ethereum. So that's one avenue. Now, the holy grail, like if you're looking at like the total addressable market, is secure AI agents. And so what I mean by that, and this is probably, I can probably give you like an anecdotal story around this. So my neighbor works for Coke. Coke has what they call Coke GPT. Imagine an instance of ChatGPT that's trained on internal Coke documents. So, training manuals, recent QA reports, payroll, all that kind of stuff. And so employees, and now it's really small scale right now, but it's a proof of concept. So employees can go and ask it questions. So you don't have to be like, oh, I need to know what the productivity numbers were for the, Atlanta manufacturing plant because I have to write a report on it. You don't have to go find out who has that data. You could just ask the GPT and the GPT just tells you, or probably even just makes the report for you. That's the goal. And so the idea is that every major corporation will have these AI agents that their employees interact with to get any answer or to get any report. really it's going to make companies extremely efficient. If you believe that to be true, those agents are honeypots. Like if you think about, now this is, I'm just making up a story here, but if you think about like Pepsi's perspective from this, Pepsi would have a huge incentive to do corporate espionage on Coke GPT, because either they could get access to Coke data, important Coke information that might give Pepsi a competitive advantage, or they may want to sabotage it, right? Because if you can sabotage that agent, have it either go shut down or give incorrect answers, you've essentially killed the productivity of your rival. So securing those AI agents is hugely important, and that's not possible on a Web2 tech stack. Going all the way back to what I was talking about of why I even found the ICP to begin with. Instead, if you host an LLM or an AI agent in a smart contract, it's tamper-proof because of the consensus mechanism, and it's unstoppable because you're not inviting Web2 players into the mix, such as like Amazon or Microsoft. So at that point now, you're unstoppable and tamper-proof. We think that probably majority of corporations, majority of like high-value AI agents are probably going to move to a Web3 solution for those two reasons. And that, I think, we're probably still, I don't know, that's probably more medium to longer term, but that's probably where the value of AI on blockchain will be realized. A vast amount of value will be.
That resonates with me because before I even knew about ICP and I was on Bitcoin and was talking about Ethereum, I thought that, a big thing that Ethereum could do, and now I know it's way too expensive to do, is just store big, these big conglomerate data files on chain, but then actually having AI. And you bring up a really, really good point. A lot of these big businesses want to keep their secrets safe. That is one of the most important things to becoming and staying a big business. So I think businesses moving to the ICP infrastructure and the blockchain is going to be something that's going to happen over time. I think it's going to start in Europe and possibly Asia and India. But then I think it's going to eventually move to America, where these, big, I think Coke and Pepsi are both out of America, right? As far as I know. So, I mean, these big companies like Coke isn't going to want their Coke GPT go into Pepsi. Like you said, there's so many things that could happen. So, I mean, you just told us like that's some alpha for ICP, because none of us knew that was possible, man. I guess there's a big...
Sorry to interrupt, Renegade, but not only is it possible, it's happening, right? So again, that like the ICP Pro developer who created the tiny storage model, that's I want to say it's a 42 million parameter model that's running completely on the internet computer. There was another developer, and I apologize, I can't remember his or her forum handle. It was 3 letters, GIP maybe, posted that they got an 8 billion parameter model running. So now latency is a big problem with the 8 billion parameter model, as well as cost. But what I'm saying is like, these are matters of optimization, not feasibility. And so not only is it coming in the future, it's actually already here, and there's people trailblazing on that. I'll also say there's a quick plug for Utopia out of all of that. Once you start talking about like enterprises and nation states adopting ICP, but we could save that probably for another conversation.
Oh darn! I was like, yes, Utopia.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'll let you continue down the AI track though.
No. I love Utopia because it kind of fits in with that, corporate infrastructure. And I think that is one of the biggest things in crypto. If you look at Bitcoin, ever since, Tesla got involved, MicroStrategy, it has nonstop just bull marketed. We've had a little pullback in a bear market like normal, but I mean, just the amount of growth that Bitcoin has made because of that, I think that ICP could be $1 trillion project one day for sure.
Going back to think about the reason why I got into ICP was for corporate reasons, right? I was working for a company that could not secure its digital assets despite all the resources it had access to. And that is the same problem every single corporation in the world has. And what I'm saying is ICP has a solution for that. And it's just a matter of basically getting the infrastructure in place from an execution standpoint to realize that. It's a lot easier to get consumers to adopt a new technology than it is to get a CIO, chief information officer, who might have career risk being the first to adopt a brand new technology. So,
Man, that is so true. And this technology, it's going to take time to adopt because it's crypto. But I think when people come in crypto and then they're looking, because eventually people are going to end up looking for some things that they can actually utilize in real time. And I think the internet computer with its, the fastest transaction speeds that I've used a lot of cryptos, probably at least 200. And ICP always, I send it and it's there immediately. Do you think AI, like on the AI thing, and then we'll get to this question, do you think AI could actually boost the transaction speed eventually of an internet computer? Or is that like, that's probably not even in the books right now?
I don't know that it could, because that has to come more at the protocol level. But I'd also say, like the finality speed is like 1.5 seconds. I'm not sure I've seen many use cases where it needs to be faster than that.
Right. Yeah, you don't really need it. You're right. That's true. You don't need it faster.
I laugh like I see some of these blockchains, and none of them are like real contenders, but they like advertise a theoretical like 1 million transactions per second or something like that. And it's like, I think Visa is doing like 40,000. So are you thinking that you're going to have more transactions than Visa? Because I don't know.
Right.
There's like those kind of things where you're like, well, I'm not sure I don't. Anyways, if there's a use case for optimizing that, then certainly we would probably be interested in optimization. But at this point, I think we're good where our transaction speed is.
Yeah, I agree. And let's just take a look at that for a second. I mean, so if we look at this, oh my goodness, man. Yeah, I mean, it's like, do we really need this many transactions per second? Yes, we do. But do we really need to use AI to scale it? I don't know. Can you kind of explain what this is right here and how it compares to other cryptos as well? This says 10,004 transactions per second.
Yeah, so a lot of people look at transactions per second as like a scalability metric, and an adoption metric, right? Because these are actual. A lot of people will talk about theoretical. Anyone who mentions theoretical TPS, you might as well just ignore them, because anyone makes up a theoretical number, but these are actual transactions. And so yeah, so I mean, Solana is often credited as having a very good TPS. They advertise like around 3,000 TPS. Now, 90% of those are consensus votes. So they're not actual transactions. So really, they have like 300. And here you see ICP doing about 10K right now. I will say a lot of whenever I post those numbers, people will criticize saying, oh, well, those are update and query calls. So not just writing data, but also querying data. The number you were just showing is 90% update calls. So that's basically, that's writing new data to the blockchain. So that's a legit. If you want to make that criticism, fine. 9,000 transactions per second is what ICP is doing right now. So
That's awesome.
it's
And
hard.
so
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
how does this, so I never really understood this. I have tried to do a little research, but how do this 10,000 transactions equal 1.59 million Ethereum transactions per second?
Yeah, you could get a more specific answer if you hover over that I, and then there's that learn more. But the idea is that an ICP transaction actually carries a lot more cryptographical information as well as raw data. So this is than an Ethereum transaction, or really than any other blockchain for the most part. So that's kind of what that's getting at, is like actually our TPS would be even higher if you looked at it from like a data payload kind of perspective. And so I think this is the dashboard's attempt at conveying like what is actually what is happening, comparing more apples to apples with Ethereum.
That's awesome. And this is what I'm looking for, because one of the main reasons I stayed in ICP is because every time I do an Ethereum transaction, one, it would take forever. And then two, it would be really, really expensive. So I think ICP has a big use case right there. And all these transactions per second is just kind of crazy. And even if you can not count that little whatever 1,000 query data, that's still an impressive amount. I mean, 3,000 to 4,000 transactions per second is pretty amazing. But to see it go all the way up to like 9,000, 10,000, that's really, really impressive. So I want to talk about another metric on the internet computer. This is one of my favorites, And this is basically the sentiment review of the Internet Computer. They do data and they kind of go into a lot of different places and they look at GitHub commits, they look at developer activity. And so we're going to talk about the developer activity. So Internet Computer surges to the #1 spot in development activity, followed by HBAR, Cardano, and Chainlink. Now, I want you to kind of tell people a little bit about what this metric is here. The Internet Computer is #1 here. It looks like they have developer activity 570. What exactly does that mean?
Yeah, I think that's probably developer days. So unique developers who had a commit per day, I think is how Sentiment measures it. But don't quote me on that. It's been a while since I've looked into Sentiment. But yeah, so developer activity, there's a couple different ways it gets measured. I'm pretty sure Sentiment measures protocol development. So how often and by how many people are involved in updating the code base for the protocol, which is important because you want a protocol. Well, I guess it depends. If you're a Bitcoin fan, you don't need your protocol to update. Updating every 3 years is fine. That's the point. You don't want that technological risk. You're okay being like a boomer coin is kind of like the nomenclature for that, like the coin that's, you know, stuck in the old days. But if you're trying to be bleeding edge, right, you really do need a protocol that is being worked on actively. I think ICP is all. I've never seen us not #1 on Sentiment from that measurement because a lot of it is the amount of work that Dfinity is putting in. I mean, you can see it. There's multiple code updates going, you know, submitted to the NNS every single day, or at least once. I think we average like 150 a year. So I guess that's once every other day or so in terms of code updates. So anyways, that's what Sentiment is measuring. There's other measurements such as number of developers building on top of your protocol. And Electric Capital is typically viewed as like the top resource for that. If you go to developerreport.com, you can see in their most recent update, ICP was the fastest growing chain with more than 100 developers that are full-time building products on top of the Internet Computer. So I mean, really, however you cut the data, ICP looks really great, and I have a feeling like we're and not just a feeling. I look at the data, but I think like the next time the developer report is updated, ICP is really going to shine because we have seen two things happen. One, developer activity building on top of ICP has been picking up this year, and developer activity for the industry has been dropping this year. So I think those are both signs that ICP will be rising in the rankings as we get the next report next year.
Yeah, I love it because this is what we look for to know, hey, my crypto's still doing good. Like ICP is still on top when it comes to the technical advancements. And this data is something that I use like at least once a month, and I look and I go in and I look at what's happening in the overall picture. And I think a lot of people are going to see this like in big business, in you know, other blockchains, other developers, because they're like, well, I'm looking for a place to build a full stack application on, you know, Web3. And where can you do that except the Internet Computer, right? And so people are going to be looking through different blockchains and they'll find the Internet Computer. And then, you know, it's just going to go crazy from there. With the AI, I think ICP, I like to call it the jack of all trades blockchain because it kind of does everything, but it's like a super nice jack of all trades because it isn't trying to take your job at every job that you have. It's like trying to work with you in every job. So I think that's super important there. Man, so I want to kind of get into the GitHub commits that goes along with the developer activity. So kind of give us a little overview of what the difference is between crypto commits and the GitHub commits and the developer activity. And then go ahead and talk about Internet Computer being #1 over here too. So let's just show you Internet Computer is #1 in developer activity. Internet Computer is #1 in the crypto comments in the past 12 months. So this isn't just, oh yeah, ICP did good for a little while. If you look, I mean, constant, and it dips with the market just like every other crypto does, but then it comes back really strong. I think the entire market is down right now, but the Internet Computer just had some big things happen. I want to talk about Bob.Fun here in a minute because I want to talk about that cycle burn rate and exactly what that means. But kind of give us an overview and just kind of explain what this data is and why the Internet Computer is on top.
Yeah, I forget how Crypto Miso defines their. So these are number of commits, which is different than like number of developers. And I can't remember if this is protocol level or ecosystem level. But either way, I think it again paints that same story of you want a protocol that's being worked on. You want an ecosystem that's active. And actually, if I can kind of like touch on one of the things that I think is important to understand is the vision behind the Internet Computer and some of the advancements that have been made by Dfinity. And because it's one thing to evolve your protocol or to like build on your protocol, but you want to make sure you're building something that people that's actually useful. And you can see just in the last 12 months, 18 months, just how the leaders at Dfinity were actually way ahead of the time when they built some of the things. So you saw Coinbase earlier this year announce passkeys, right? So something that was part of internet identity when it rolled out back in 2021. Now Coinbase made a massive ad spend on advertising their passkeys. So that's like, okay, obviously Dfinity like knew where the puck was going in that case. You see it with AO by Arweave trying to get into this web service, like web cloud hosting service, basically like trying to kind of pivot what they're doing into this AO product. You see it with Near with their chain abstraction, which their white paper for chain abstraction has multiple references to Dfinity's publications. So again, an area in which ICP was a leader years ago. You see it with the whole movement towards Bitcoin, right? This whole idea of like building on Bitcoin is becoming a massive thing. And a lot of that is because of like a lot of new players entering the space. ICP was in the space back in December 2022. And there's like countless examples. So what I kind of laugh because every time somebody releases something like Coinbase says, oh, we're doing passkeys, the community gets up in arms and it's like, oh no, like we got a new competitor. And in my opinion, it's like, no, actually what you're seeing is people validating what ICP is today and what it's been in the past. And therefore what you can take comfort in knowing is that what we're doing in ICP today is where the industry is going to try to get to in the future. And in addition to that, you're not seeing one player replicate what's going on in ICP. You're seeing dozens of different players replicating a small part of what's going on. And so you get this the visionary aspect that Dom brought into Dfinity and ICP early on is, you're seeing it in the case of other copycats coming along and trying to copy. And Dom actually had a really good point about, and I can't remember if he made this publicly or at like a Dfinity all hands, but either way, I'll share it. If you're worried about somebody copying what ICP is and taking market share, it's important to remember that almost every single blockchain that exists today was built on what you'd call like a Gen 2 blockchain. They followed basically like the Ethereum model, whereas ICP followed the world computer model. And often like we spent most of our history as like this odd duck in crypto because we tried to become a Generation 3 blockchain. Everyone else was a Gen 2. Now you see these Gen 2 blockchains trying to pivot to become a Gen 3 blockchain. And Dom kind of described it in a very real way where he said, if you're going to build a rocket ship, it's easier to start with a blank piece of paper than it is to take an airplane and try to make it a rocket ship, right? Like, and so these Gen 2 blockchains trying to do a Gen 3 thing is like trying to take an airplane and strap some rockets onto it and then calling it a rocket ship, right? Or a space shuttle or something. No, the best way is destroy it. Like start from a blank page, which is what Dfinity did back in 2017. Start with a blank page and build from there. And so for somebody to copy ICP is going to take them 7 years. to get where we're at today. And you can just imagine where we'll be at in 2030 if somebody's just starting now trying to copy where we're at today, where ICP will be at 7 years from now. So
that is validation right there. You have not made it until somebody tries to steal what you're doing. And so, I mean, it's because like I said, ICP is the jack of all trades. So people have to copy it because there's nothing else out there that they can copy. And when they try to make something new, there isn't enough technology to like make a lot of new stuff in Web3 besides what's already out there. And that's why I love ICP, because it kind of takes everything to that next level. And I love how it's like, don't try to rebuild, the world, like knock it down and start from scratch. I love that, because when you like, especially when you go into like the military or like a really, like the FBI or something, they kind of break you down from what you've known, and then they rebuild you in what they want, right? So that's kind of what you have to do. You can use the airplane parts. You could take the airplane apart and say, hey, I want to use a piece of that airplane to make my rocket ship, and that's kind of what they're doing. They're taking a piece of Dfinity's rocket ship and they're trying to make their own rocket ship, right? And all they can do is take a part of it and then build it with the rest of their airplane. When ICP already has that full rocket ship, all people can do is like take pieces that fall off when it goes in the air or something, you know what I mean? So it's cool how ICP is just that kind of, big brother in crypto. And even Vitalik Buterin kind of gave ICP the nod a long time ago before everybody was on board. He's like, it's a sister network, not a competitor. And that should have told us right there that Dom and Vitalik are friends. I don't know if this is true, but this is my theory. And they had talked about this, kind of a canister smart contract, this, fully integratable crypto with all the other cryptos. And so Vitalik already knew what the internet computer was. He knew about the CKF integration. And I think that's why he called it a sister network, because now the two are completely compatible. You can use them without like any kind of big expenses. And it's the future. It's where it's going. I think in 10 years, if you're not in the interconnected blockchain circle, you're going to have a very hard time making it. I think liquidity is going to travel throughout different cryptos in different parts of the cycle, depending on what's hot. Like if AI is hot, if multi-chain integration is hot. And the cool thing about the internet computer is that it has all those. So if we go through a phase, hey, it's a Bitcoin ordinals phase, we got you. It's a data storage phase, we got you. People want to stake right now, we got you. It's just like all those different things that the internet computer does. And then like AVAX tries to, what did they try to pull off? Was it the passkey too? Was that AVAX that did that too?
Oh, I can't remember.
They did something, but whatever it was, they did something that Dominic Williams tweeted out, and he's like, yeah, good job. We did that 2 years ago. Appreciate it. I love his, way of saying things like without actually being a jerk, but actually dropping truth. Like, hey, good, he gave him props. Hey, good job. We did that already. Just the way he handles it.
I mean, he knows firsthand. He's like, oh, that was actually really hard when we did it 2 years ago. It was really hard for us to do 2 years ago. So good job. I think one of the clarifying, I love this conversation. I just want to make sure it's clear that like, I don't view, and certainly nobody within Dfinity views ICP's role as replacing Ethereum or replacing any other blockchain, but rather I think in Vitalik's use of the word sister chain is so good, right? Like we don't want to be a Gen 2 blockchain. Full stop. Like that's not what we've ever wanted to be. We don't want to be that. But a lot of good stuff is going on Gen 2 blockchains like Ethereum. And what we want to then in that case be is like, hey, if you want to take advantage of a lot of like the ICP features, maybe that's AI on chain, inference engine on chain. Maybe that's big data storage, right? An ICP smart contract can store 400 gigabytes. Maybe it's compute power. Maybe it's access to other Gen 2 blockchains. All of those features are things that now Ethereum apps are free to use now that we have this chain fusion technology, that you don't even have to rebuild your app, right? You're an Ethereum developer. You've already launched your app. You've got customers. You've got you don't want to change your marketing strategy and all that, but you want to add AI. Well, you could build just the AI on ICP and then have that AI talk back and forth with your Ethereum smart contracts without having to restack any of your existing code. And I think that's a huge game changer for the industry. And people are starting to really like kind of see ICP as that, as like, oh, actually, I've got an existing product that's already out there. I don't want to change it, because when you change it, you're going to offend your customers. You're going to lose customers. But yet I want to evolve my product. And I'm finding that the tech stack I'm built on can't evolve, or I want to evolve into new markets like Bitcoin. And we're seeing a lot of developers interested in using ICP as basically just to add a small component on top of their existing application.
Sorry about that. My cat was going crazy. No, I agree. And so I didn't know, this is trippy to me, that you will be able to utilize AI capabilities cross-chain. Is that what I just heard?
Well, think about, because ICP can sign Ethereum transactions, it can sign Bitcoin transactions, soon it'll sign Solana transactions, as well as read state from smart contracts, on Ethereum, on Solana, and blockhead data on Bitcoin. So from that point of view, you can have your AI, you can build an AI on ICP that is fully interacting with your existing smart contract on Ethereum. And so, yeah, like it's not going to, like, that's like things that people are exploring right now.
This just keeps getting crazier and crazier. I'm not like expecting this, because when you think of AI, you would think that it could only interact with the original blockchain. But like you said, it's like a layer 3. Or generation 3, not layer 3, layer 0 basically. But generation 3 blockchain, which means that it has all the capabilities of like Ethereum a little bit differently, but plus more. And that's how it evolves over time. And so having AI cross chain, that is going to be huge. Because there isn't a lot of blockchains, unless they're AI specific, that are able to integrate AI into their blockchain. So if they're like, well, we could try to figure out a way to integrate AI, or we just integrate with the internet computer, or internet computer just makes a chain key, whatever it is, and it's integrated anyway. But then they'll be able to utilize that AI capability. So you might have a lot of different projects coming up to Dfinity and being like, hey, we want to partner with you. Is there any way you could make like a CK, for instance, CK Matic? Let's just say, I don't know if Matic can do AI, but let's just say that, for instance, they're like, hey, Dfinity, we like what you're doing. We need AI. We don't have the capabilities of that because of data, whatever the reason might be. Then they're going to be looking at Dfinity. I think integration and collaboration are what is next for Dfinity, because the innovation is already there. The team is already there. Like, I love you guys at Dfinity. Like, you guys have had my back since day one. I hope I've done a good job, just like talking about ICP for you guys, but you guys have really impressed me with everything that you're doing. I think, you guys are always working really, really hard, and I see it. Like, I see all of the stuff that you guys are doing around the globe. I met you in person. You could have just been sitting back drinking, some sodas and snacking all day, but like, you were legit there just working your butt off, making this product perfect for Dfinity, or not perfect, but as perfect as it can be. And those events, man, it was one of the biggest opportunities that I've ever had, going to Bitcoin Nashville, meeting you. I've been trying to get you on the channel for years, bro. And like Jennifer, and just like meeting the IC Lighthouse guy, I got him on the channel, the Bit Omni people. I mean, it's just been an incredible journey. And I want to thank Dfinity. I want to thank you. I want to just shout out what you guys are doing. I want to encourage you. Please just keep doing what you're doing. Don't stop. Just keep, going on. I watch you on all sorts of different podcasts. I see you on YouTube. I see you on Twitter. I actually thought you were part of the marketing team. Because you're like the face that I see all the time out there. So kudos to that, man, and thank you. If there's anything else you want to say, do that, and then we'll get into some questions and we'll call it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, there's no harder working people than Dfinity Engineering. Like, they're doing a phenomenal, like they're easily, like, everyone at Dfinity is just awesome. It's been really a dream job for me. So nice. I always joke, I was doing my job for free. As a community member, I was analyzing all this ICP data,
right,
and posting blogs about it. And I was essentially doing it for free. So Dfinity is now paying me, which I feel like maybe I'm getting the better end of that deal.
Yeah, I love it, man, because I have my dream job right now. Like, honestly, being able to talk with people that are building like something that I just never believed when I joined crypto. This is why I kind of have imposter syndrome sometimes, because like I can't believe that I'm here, because when I first got into crypto, like I was a nobody, and I'm still not like a big crypto YouTuber. But I've done some incredible things for a channel of my size. You know, just being able to have all of these different ecosystem projects on the channel, being able to invest in these great projects at the beginning. This is something I never could have imagined that where my life would be. And I want to thank you for being part of that and coming on the channel. Like, it means a lot when you guys come, you support the channel, because I support ICP through and through. Like, I'm not an ICP maxi, but I told Jennifer Tran I'm an ICP mainly. Not maxi, but mainly.
I
And
got
she's
you.
like, what's that? And I'm like, just mainly ICP. That's it, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's great, man. Let's get into some questions. I was going to do this earlier, but then I kind of freaked out or whatever. But it says, hi, when is the big AI announcement? We already have 3 weeks over the ETA. Is there a big AI announcement coming from Dominic Williams soon?
Yeah, Dom's been hinting at it. I don't know when it's coming, but I know what it is, and it's awesome.
Yes. Well, you can't tell us what it is because that's a spoiler. We don't want that. But we do know it's coming soon. How big is the recent ICP Google partnership? Is this true?
No, I don't think so. I think that was I don't know. I saw a little bit of that going around on Twitter. I don't if there is a partnership, I wasn't part of it. So I don't know anything about that. I imagine
Okay, we'll look into that on a future episode so that we can tell. Marketing, please. Okay. If anyone, okay. How does, okay. Wow, this is a really good question. I couldn't answer this question, so this is for you. It says, how does ICP combat inspecting node storage? If an ICP node has corporate AI data, would it still be a honeypot?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. That's where so I mean the original question right now is or the answer as it stands today is node providers are KYC'd. They're under their local laws and jurisdictions. So basically what this question is if you're a node provider, can you look at the storage can you look at the state of the data that's on your machine? I know we're pursuing fully encrypted data on nodes as well. But then this is also in terms of corporate AI data. The other way to combat that is, and this is kind of where Utopia gets in, is the market is probably going, consumers of like corporate customers are going to want a more like a Utopia solution where they can control who the node providers are. They'll specifically say these are our node providers. We want them in this jurisdiction because we want to have we want to know the local laws surrounding what they're doing. And so I think that's actually, you'll probably see corporate AI mostly on like a Utopia subnet kind of thing where it's a lot more controlled by the enterprise. But that's just, I mean, again, this is all longer term. So who knows? AI, I mean, if you said like a year and a half ago that we would have AI where like ChatGPT 4.0, where you can, it's multimodal, where you not just text, typing text, but also it'll interpret live video feeds and voice. Like, people would have called you crazy. So who knows where we're going to be in 18 months as well? Like, there's so much at flux.
That to me is incredible because like corporate data storage is, I think, the next bull run. I think that a lot of corporate, entities are going to start looking to get into AI, and they're not going to want to pay these big fees to keep their stuff safe. So I think the internet computer would be a very smart option. Has Dfinity ever thought of reaching out to any corporations to let I imagine Dfinity having like a telemarketing team, just calling different corporate places, being like, hey, have you heard about our data storage capabilities in AI? I mean, I'm just joking with that, of course, but is there any plans to like approach like Google or any other big corporate entity that could possibly use ICP as a data storage, or use it for AI or whatever they want to use it for?
Yeah, I mean, so yes, Dfinity has, that's part of market research for like the Utopia product, as of course.
Okay.
Again, the enterprise customer is far different than the consumer, and I would say the consumer customer is generally defined as far different than the Web3 customer. So there's multiple steps there. I would say also the market research doesn't stop at just enterprise, but rather like federal agencies, government agencies have a huge interest in it. On NGOs, non-governmental organizations have a huge when you think about having when you add in tamper-proof and unstoppable software, combine it with cryptographically backed privacy at the protocol level, those type of things really appeal, have a broad appeal, and so we're probably market research stage is probably what I would describe it as.
Here's another one. This one, I know he's talking to Ham here, but it looks like there are rumors that Alliance Group is already building on ICP. They sent their devs to learn Motoko.
That's news to me.
Man, I love my audience, man. They always have the alpha too. I mean, it, dude.
Here's the thing. How many websites do you visit that it's being hosted on Amazon Web Services versus Google Cloud versus Alibaba Cloud versus a local machine? Like, if you're building a product, there's often times where you're not advertising the tech stack underneath it, and so I mean, I think that there's projects built on ICP that they don't they don't need to advertise it in the same way that my local bank doesn't advertise that their website runs on Google Cloud or whatever it runs on.
That's a very good point. I never even thought about that. So I guess the Swiss government is building their tax identity system on ICP. This was an official newspaper article 3 weeks ago.
Yes. Yes, there's so much news coming out. I get it all mixed up. You saw the United Nations as well has an identity solution they're seeking for, I believe it was refugees, refugee agencies as well. Like I can't remember the details of these, but there's been a lot of news articles, and it just shows that the general adoption of ICP in really cool ways.
Yeah, so I want to ask you about that. This will be the last question because I don't want to waste a lot of your time here. Thank you guys for your questions, by the way. But with a lot of rumors going around, I just want to know. Dang, I forgot what I was saying. I want to know about the already established staking protocol for corporations. Do you think they could integrate some kind of AI into that as well? And do you think that could be a precursor, being able to stake, like corporate staking? Do you think that could lead to more corporate entities using AI on ICP?
Corporate staking, as in staking tokens?
Yeah.
As in so maybe kind of like a micro strategy.
Well, there's already this thing, I think it's in Switzerland, where, oh God, what is the name of it? Oh, I'm drawing a blank on the name right now, but dang it. Yeah, I forget the name, but they do like a corporate staking or thing in Switzerland where basically their customers can stake ICP in a corporate infrastructure way. God, I really wish I remember the name of that right now. But if you guys know, let us know in the chat. But I think that could, even if you don't know, I think that could be a precursor into more corporations utilizing AI on ICP, because then or even vice versa, they use AI and then they go to the staking protocol.
Yeah, I mean, I think at least my general read on the industry is if you're a corporation, if you're bold, you'll buy Bitcoin. If you're even more bold, then you'll buy and stake Ethereum. And then there's really nobody beyond that because that's the boldest of the bold. So at least there's going to be obviously like caveats to that. But in terms of, obviously there'll be different different companies and that have different strategies. I don't know that staking, and obviously staking on ICP tends to be what we really encourage is governance out of that staking, right? That's how the protocol remains secure. And so yeah, so I'm not sure that that's so much the entryway into AI. I think it's really just the fact that, you know, AI is going to be super important for any company that wants to compete in the future. And number two is going to become a honeypot for any corporate espionage or hacker, right? Like, think about like the amount of corporate hacks that happen today, and that's without a centralized repository for everything that a company knows and understands. And so these are going to become massive honeypots that companies will invest huge resources to protect. Like, think about that Coke GPT. Like, again, right now it's in like, you know, kind of more of like a let's try this out phase, like a beta phase. If it moves forward, you can imagine that GPT will be pretty much worth most of the enterprise value. So Coke is worth like hundreds of millions of dollars or hundreds of billions of dollars. That GPT will control the whole company.
So they need that safe or their company's done.
Yeah. So
That's
think
very
about the
important. So they're going to
market
put a lot of money into keeping it safe.
Exactly. And that's one company out of thousands and thousands and thousands. Yeah, that's where if you're talking about corporate AI, that's the value that ICP can bring them.
That's beautiful. You can. I also heard that it can be used at casinos, medical offices. I mean, the limits, the things that I've heard that ICP can do, I can't fit them all in my brain. Like, there's too many to list.
Yeah, and it exists. I think a really good thought experiment. It's just like, why does ICP exist? And I always like to think of it this way. Like, if you think about the internet as a whole, like, so ChatGPT kind of lit this whole LLM market, which is awesome. But before that, there was no innovation on the internet. Like, you know, in the 15 years ago, you had social media like with Facebook and Instagram and all of those that really like blew up in the matter of years. Then you had gig economy like Uber and Airbnb, and all these things blew up. And then you had SaaS software, you know, like software as a service, blew up. All of that kind of blew up in like the 2005 to 2015 range. Since 2015, what has the internet innovated on? Like, there's been no innovation until LLMs. I see the internet computer as like, you can build things on the internet computer that you cannot build on the standard Web 2 tech stack by leveraging the unique capabilities that you get when you have a cryptographically backed blockchain technology. And so that's kind of where I'm really interested of like, what is going to be like that next vertical, that next big thing on the internet that can only happen on ICP. It can't actually happen on any other tech stack. And I don't know that we found it yet, but when we do, it's going to be awesome. And it's going to be like what my kids will know the internet. Like, they'll be like, oh yeah, of course I use this product because like, that's what all the people do. And I'll be like, well, you know, that wouldn't have been possible had the internet computer not came around in 2021.
That is so awesome. I hope you have some neurons for your kids, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. So, man, thank you so much. I'd love to have you on again in the future to talk ICP. I mean, especially like later on next year or something. That would be great, like during the big part of the bull market. If you ever need anything, bro, we're here for you, the community. We love you guys, and we just appreciate what you're doing, man.
Hey, I love, and this is credit to you, great host. I do a lot of these things, and this was a really fun one. So I appreciate that. We didn't even get to Bob.fun, and maybe that can be like another topic another day, or maybe we can do another one soon. But
I mean, we could take a moment to talk about it. I mean, if you saw those cycle burn rates, and maybe you can explain this to us a little bit. It basically burns ICP because the developers buy the cycles with ICP. The cycles get burnt. So technically, the ICP that they bought is burnt. And then how does Bob.fun burn those cycles?
So it actually is the users of Bob.fun that basically give their ICP to Bob.fun or burn or oh my gosh, what's the new one that just came out? ICPS? I think it could be. I apologize. But anyways, it's basically the users.
It's by ICP Pro, but I don't know what this site's called.
Yeah. Well, anyways, it's essentially just that the users are basically burning their ICP to get these cycles to power their, you know, like mining rigs. So it's ICP being burned, right? And with the numbers you were just showing, like 400, 500 trillion cycles per second, that gets us at what you might call operational deflation status, where, okay, so now we're at a little below that, where you're actually burning more ICP than you're minting for node rewards. I just say within Dfinity, I know Bjorn Osman created a very awesome, like the most detailed tokenomics projections. He posted it in the forum. If you just search maybe Bjorn Osman tokenomics, you'll probably find he had multiple articles on it. And if I remember correctly, his optimistic case was to reach that operational deflationary criteria like in 2027 or 2026. So here we are, 2024, we've hit it. And a lot of that is just people, this concept of like, it's exactly the same thing as Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin, the purpose, Bitcoin's value comes from the amount of computational power that people are willing to put into trying to get more Bitcoin. Or you can say that vice versa, but either way, there's demand there. And so you see that coming through with Burn and Bob.fun and ICP. I want to say it's ICPS.
ICPS, okay.
Yeah. So it's really cool to see. Again, it's you can't do this on any other chain. No other chain could run the computation that is going on in the background there. And it's just a use of the internet computer in a way, again, going back to this innovation mindset, like someone just thinking of this crazy idea, trying it out, and then turns out there's a market there. There's a lot of, I know Burn, I think last I looked, had like 370 pool members. So there's 370 people participating. Bob.fun, I know, got to like 10,000 miners pretty quickly.
Yeah, I got in at like 9,000. It was fun though, man. I had fun doing it, and I think it's very important. Each one of us in the ecosystem, like I did it not expecting to make money. I was like, if I make anything cool, but I love supporting the ecosystem. I was like, this would be awesome because if I put one ICP in here and I get, this amount of Bob token, I'm going to make a lot of money. And if not, I'm supporting the ecosystem. I'm burning ICP. So the way that I look at it as a holder, as somebody who holds a nice bag of ICP himself, is when I put ICP into a project, I am helping my other bags. That's what we're doing. We're basically investing in the ecosystem so that ICP can go up. So we'll throw money. It doesn't matter if we're always making money. It's great to make money off a token and off Bob.fun. But if we don't, we're supporting the ecosystem. Like I have like maybe 200 NFTs. Like I got so many NFTs and I'm down bad. I'm down, but it doesn't matter to me. I bought most of them because my friend was selling them, or whatever reason. I was like, I'm supporting your project. I'm not selling. I don't care if I'm, throwing ICP. It's because we love the ecosystem, man. And if we can get more people with the same passion that all of us have, that's why, like my channel says, a community of like-minded individuals, but not a cult. But yeah, so because we all have this kind of vision. And the internet computer aligns with our vision. And so a lot of people in crypto get tunnel vision, staying on that. And so they see their own chain. But when they see, hey, my chain is integrated with ICP, what is ICP? Now there's that gateway, the like reverse gateway of these other cryptos, not even knowing, because I'm sure Solana community, like the Solana developers didn't do CK Solana, the ICP developers did. So then that opens a gateway for this chain key Solana to be like, oh, what is CK Solana? Now they're looking at that, they're like, oh, that's ICP? Well, ICP and Solana are together now, and so I think that really brings a cohesive nature to the industry, and we'll get rid of that tribalism a little bit. Me and Jennifer were talking about that, and I feel that even in the ICP community, like especially at Bitcoin Nashville, like I was trying to talk to everybody and hang out with everybody, but my group of people came, and I kind of navigated to them, and I felt bad about it afterwards because I was like, man, there's so many new connections that I could have made. And so I think ICP kind of helps people get out of that tribalism by integrating all these blockchains together. It's gonna be huge, man. Awesome. I can't wait to see the future, bro. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. That being said, goodbye and good ICP. Bang!